Okay. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. As you know, yesterday was the first day of the 2019 Maryland legislative session. So today I'll be joined by James Arnie. Jim is the past director of the Maryland Department of Revenue. But before we start, good morning, Jim.
Good morning, young lady.
How are you doing?
Great.
Great. Well, before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about the shutdown and what's going on. As you know, or maybe not, the IRS has released notification that despite of the government shutdown, the Internal Revenue Service confirmed that they will begin processing tax returns beginning January 28, 2019, and will begin providing refunds to taxpayers as scheduled.
That's good.
It is good. I'm a little worried. They can say it, but I'm still a little worried about it.
See it to believe it.
See it is to believe it. I know. You know, because I was attending the tax speaker seminar yesterday in Hunt Valley, and one of my EAs came up and said, you know, I just renewed my license just before the shutdown. And he says, and my actual license stops in March. So where am I going to be if they, you know, because that's going to be delayed. Am I going to receive notification that I'm okay to do tax return? Am I going to have to stop business between March and April 15th? You know, he's a little worried about it. So hopefully they'll get started. The shutdown will stop and we'll be back on track.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So hopefully that'll happen. So, well, I want to move over to our here in Maryland. Legislative session started, and first day of the session. And I know we have just a small window to hear bills because it goes from January to April, Jim? Is
yes.
that when it comes? Okay. Right. So last year, how many bills did we actually hear last year?
Last year, there were a total of 3,101 bills introduced into the session, and that was comprised of 1,269 Senate bills and 1,832 House bills.
Wow. Now, of course, not all those bills become law. So, you know, from these bills that are submitted, about how many become effect?
Last year, 855 were enacted into law. That's about 28% of all the bills introduced.
Oh, that's still a pretty good number. And that gets done for that short time. So
yes, absolutely.
I know. So I know year after year, we see bills on certain topics that pop their little heads up each year. And one of them being the IRS and the pension exclusion. I know you and I both have discussed this, and we're not going to be surprised if we don't see something like that again this year by someone.
There were two bills that were pre-filed already.
Oh, wow. On the pension exclusion.
That appeared yesterday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
On pension exclusion.
Oh, and about allowing the IRAs? What was it about?
The first bill was allowing the IRA rollover to be included in the pension exclusion subtraction modification. So if you had a pension, your company, just using GM as an example, I'm not saying that, using a GM, we got my pension, hey, I want to, and they were recommended to roll it over. They rolled it into IRA. Now, currently, per the rules, IRAs cannot be excluded. But so they're saying under this new bill that's being submitted, that rollover from a real pension can be included. It had to have been an employer pension provided plan initially.
Okay. So that was the one. And so what was the other one?
The second one was basically increasing the pension exclusion amount that you begin with. For example, in 2020, the pension exclusion amount would be $33,000.
Okay.
Then you would reduce it by any Social Security amount.
Okay.
And each year that amount for the pension exclusion would increase. The following year it was about 43,000. The following year was 54,000.
Okay.
65, and then topping out at 75,000. But then there's a provision in there that if you have pension income that reaches $100,000 or more, you are not entitled to any type of pension exclusion.
Oh, interesting.
It would have a ceiling on it, and then you would be zero pension exclusion.
Now, were these House or Senate bills?
The first one was a House bill or a Senate bill. And I believe the second one was a Senate bill also.
Okay. Now, I know sometimes when people put in bills, I know we're going a little bit off track here, that they cross-file them. Can you talk a little bit about cross-filing and why they do that sometimes?
A cross-filed bill, you get a House sponsor and a Senate sponsor, and each of them will introduce the same bill that enhances your possibility or probability of getting one of the two bills passed through the General Assembly. Sometimes both bills pass, sometimes just only one. Sometimes neither may make it. But it just improves your probability of having success in getting a bill through.
That's what I thought, because I thought when you cross file, because if you only keep it in one house, then the house, when it gets over to the other house, it's like all new information. But if you have a cross file, they already know about it, so it could move it a little quicker. That's how I always thought about it. Is that what you're thinking now?
Pretty much, but anytime if a bill, even if it's single file bill, if it passes the House of Origin and then goes over to the opposite house, when they have a hearing, normally they don't allow additional testimony at that second hearing.
Okay.
They've got all the information from the first hearing, and they don't allow oral testimony at the second hearing, and that is a way to speed up the process.
But when you cross file, both of you hear testimony on both sides.
At the original house.
Okay.
But then if, say, both of them pass and then they cross houses,
no more.
Then there's no more oral testimony on that bill. The sponsor provides his explanation of the bill.
Okay.
Gets a chance to answer, or the members of the committees have a chance to ask any questions, but there's no groups or anything like that that go up and do the oral testimony.
Now, what happens if they've added an amendment or something in the bill? At that point, do they allow testimony?
No.
Really? I something new. I did not know that today. Wow, that was good information. So I know that we're currently looking at a affirmability bill for the CPAs in the state of Maryland that's going to be put in. And I've also heard about maybe a possible ACA bill when the Affordable Care Act, as well as some cybersecurity regulations, with the identity theft and everything going on. Now, did you see anything in the initial filings when you looked at it, anything on those?
Nothing. There was a cybersecurity bill, but not dealing with tax preparation or accountants or anything of that nature.
Gotcha. Okay. So now I know that hearing from our membership, a lot of them would like to hear the General Assembly address the inability to itemize when you don't itemize on the federal. Did you see anything on that from the initial bills coming out?
Not yesterday.
Not yesterday?
Not yet.
Okay. So, I mean, I know a lot of our members would like to see that. I know they upped the standard deduction for this year for the 2018 tax season, but it was just a small amount. So,
well, there was a bill in to increase the standard deduction minimum and maximum.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
That was in the pre-filed bills.
We did see that. Okay. Well, okay. I guess people are really on top of things and getting that filing up quickly. Now, I know, Jim, that you have been working with the MSATP since your retirement, which, and you've done an amazing job, and we appreciate everything you do for us as a society. And I know you are our eyes and ears during our legislative session, because we are in the grunges doing their taxes. Can you give our members a little bit of update on what you do for the society during the legislative session?
Sure.
And how that to keep us informed of what's going on?
Absolutely. Each day, the House and the Senate will introduce bills. They provide a synopsis of those bills. They're in numerical order by bill assignment. And it's just a brief, shows the sponsor, the primary sponsor, a brief title and a brief description of what that bill entails. And I review every bill that is on the synopsis each day for both the House and the Senate. And usually you can detect if a bill is applicable to a tax type. For example, an individual tax, it will say individual income tax, or corporate sales and use tax, and so forth. When you get into health matters and cybersecurity issues, it will trigger a thought that it would be applicable, but you may have to then go into the bill itself and see what the nuts and bolts of that particular bill are. And from that, I develop a list of various bills that I feel that the society should be aware of. And those reports are submitted every Friday after the week of introductions have been completed. And each report is separate, all income tax bills on one report, sales tax and like. and those are sent to you, and you forward them to members that are going to review those bills, and if they need to, look at the actual bill on the website and determine if any action should be taken by the society. By action, I mean, do we want to not take any action in terms of supporting or opposing, but just track that bill to see what the outcome is? Or if we feel strongly that we need to support a bill, we'll indicate that. And if so, do we do it in just written testimony or both written and oral testimony at the hearing? Or do we oppose a bill both in writing and or orally?
Right, and as a society, we do have our PAC that does a lot of work, and actually the people that, and I know we tried to narrow down to specific topics: property tax, regulations,
Right.
professional regulations. So we're not looking at something that has to do with childcare or something like that. We were really trying to narrow down, because not with 3,000 bills, we would, it would be just too much.
Exactly.
And especially since it's all volunteer. So
Sure.
we're doing that or looking at this. Now, in addition to that, I know that we also, when we see something that, that we can help, or maybe have some expertise on, we reach out to the
Sure.
senator or the delegate or the representative and say, you know what, can we help you? This is what we're seeing. We're here in the trenches.
Yes.
We can give them some
Absolutely.
feedback. So I think that's really important. So it's important that we keep our members aware of what's going on. And like I said, how many topics do we track? 6, I believe?
It's 7.
Seven topic areas.
We added cybersecurity this year because of the provisions in several other states. They developed a law dealing with cybersecurity regarding taxpayer preparation systems.
Yes, we heard that at the accountancy board, I believe, that was going on in other states. And so what we took from there, now we've expanded our watchful eye on these things. Interesting.
I went back last year to see if there were any cybersecurity bills, and there were a lot of cybersecurity bills introduced in Maryland General Assembly, but they were mostly related to election systems because of all the hacking and so forth.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see that category expand greatly.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that. Okay. It's one of those things. It
never stops.
It never stops. It never stops. So I know that we're going to try to keep our members and aware of what's going on down in Annapolis.
Absolutely.
And so one of the things we're going to be doing, we're going to be implementing a new section in our e-weekly called Legislative Highlight. What we're going to do is we're going to highlight one specific bill that we really feel is a real important issue for not only our members, but for their clients.
Yes.
For instance, it could be a cybersecurity issue. It may be something to do with how they're handling their credit cards, and so again, we're going to keep them aware of it, and that's what we're going to do. And we're going to do an article on that in our e-weekly, and then from there, we're going to expand that into a blog so we can get some feedback and some interaction. So I think right now we should be seeing a website up on that where you can visit that on our website. So make sure you do that. Now, also, now we're going to maybe not be able to show the bill in detail. So we're going to also, in that article, show them where they can go to actually view the full bill. And that's, what do you use? Where do you go to?
I go to the Maryland General website.
Okay, so we're going to put that in that article so that if you want to go see the bill or maybe learn if it's cross-filed, all those things what we were just talking about, you can visit there as well.
Correct.
Now I know that we just had the election, and and I understand how many new people on the General Assembly this year.
There are 60.
60 new.
60 new.
Oh wow.
And that is going to impact, I think, this session, because that's 1/3 of the General Assembly. There are 181 members in the General Assembly, and 60, 1/3 of them are brand new.
Wow, that's amazing. So some of you may not know who they are or how to contact them. So So we know the people's voices are powerful, and so we're showing you now. If you don't know who your legislators are, you can reach out. There is a link right there on the Maryland General Assembly website, correct?
Yes, across the top it has a legislators. You click on that and it will list the senators on one side and the delegates on the right side in alphabetical order, and it shows what district they're in. And it also has a link. You can click on the link, enter your address, and it will tell you who your senators and delegates and congressmen representatives are.
Right, and they can also learn about hearings, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, to see how a hearing functions, you can go into the schedule, and let's say a bill is going to be heard at Budget and Taxation. You can click on that committee, and then the day and time of the hearing. If it's 10:30 in the morning, you can click that on and watch it live.
Oh, wow.
On your computer.
Oh, wow. And some of them could be very long.
Oh, some start at 1 o'clock. And I mean, when I was director, I was there at 6 and 7 o'clock at night, because you never know what the bill that you're there on, when it's going to be heard. They don't give you a pre-scheduled. And I can understand that, because some of those hearings, they have a lot of supporters or in opposition, and it's like a group that will go up 3 or 4 people, and they're supposed to only get like a minute each.
So they do try to keep it controlled.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I know now, Jim, and I don't know if you know this number off the top of I mean, I know our committee, the Committee on Professional Regulation, is, you work very closely with our group of volunteers. Yes. And these are the people that review them after you say, this might be something you want to look at, So how many did the committee look at last year? Do you happen to know that number?
310.
Wow. So out of the 3,000, so
10%.
10% is what we looked at. So that's
right.
Pretty. Now I know.
And interestingly, there are dates during the General Assembly that you have to introduce bills, because after that date, it has to go through a rules committee, which slows up the process, which means that it's less likely to get passed during that session.
Gotcha.
Last year, the cutoff date on the Senate side was February the 10th. It was a week earlier for the House.
Oh.
And I went back and looked, and on February the 10th, 97% of the bills that we tracked or looked at for an initial review, 97% were filed by February the 10th.
Interesting. Well, I guess the better, when you get in there as quickly as you can.
Absolutely.
If there's issues going on, we can iron those out before it's too late into the session.
I have to, because when it gets near the end of the session and the budget has to be approved, and if they have differences and all like that, that can take up a lot of time, and they won't be having hearings on the individual bills. So there's a lot that goes on.
Yeah, exactly. So I know we have a group of volunteers that do an amazing job doing this, and we're always looking for other people to help out. So if you're is this something that you're interested in? Like I said, we're just the eyes and ears of the members of the society. And if you would just like to be a part of this, it's pretty exciting. I got to say, it is pretty exciting during this time of year, and just to see the process.
Yes.
If you have not actually taken the whole time to go down and go to a hearing during this session, I think it's a real learning experience.
Absolutely.
It really is, to see how things happen. So do you have any final thoughts on this upcoming session?
I just think it's going to be interesting for the 2 reasons. One, we've already spoken about the 60 new members of the General Assembly, but also as a result of the elections, we have a lot of new committee chairs and vice chairs.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's going to be interesting to see how they function, how they allow their committees to operate, and so forth. So that could come into play this year very much.
Very much so. Wow. Well, thank you, Jim, for your insight on that.
Thank you for the invite.
Again, thank you for doing this for us. Again, our members really, and I'll just express our thanks from our membership on the great job that you're doing for the society. We really appreciate it.
And I enjoy it.
Well, thank you. Well, at this point in time, I just want to remind everyone that next week we'll be hosting our Gear Up Federal Tax Update Seminar in Gaithersburg. That's on January 16th. And we do still have some space available. So if you want to join us, this is going to be a great opportunity for you to still get all that information you need for you to prepare tax returns for 2018. Also on the January 17th at 5:00, we'll be hosting our tax season kickoff. Woohoo! Look at us go.
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to be at the Columbia office, and so come network, have some wine and cheese, get to know. I think we have a couple presentations planned on some kind of inciting things. I don't want to give away the boat here, or what is the farm? Not the boat, the farm. That's what I'm giving away. But if you want to take and join us, I think we're going to be showing the RSVP. If you want to RSVP for that event, we still have space available as well. Now, next week, we're going to be joining our program. We're going to be joined by Jeff Miller of JM Consulting. Jeff will be talking about how to start your new year on the right foot and how to keep you less stressful during tax season. Boy, wouldn't that be
Very
wonderful?
important.
I know we're starting off not well with the shutdown.
I didn't know that was possible.
I know. You were thinking that you can be less stressful during tax season. So again, as we crack into the busy season, make sure you take and listen in next week, and maybe we'll learn about a way to do that little yoga thing. Breathe. There you go. Well, I want everyone to have a wonderful day. Before we started the show, Jim was sharing with us that he's planning on having some snow for us this weekend. Thank you, Jim. So be careful, and we'll see you next week.